Hey guys, what's up? It's Deprimido. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a Travis Scott type beat. So usually these are very dark and melodic, and they tend to have a synth bass as well as an 808, trap drums, things like that. So I am here in FL Studio, and I started off by putting down a sampler track in G sharp minor. This will show us what notes to use, and this is a very dark key, which a lot of Travis Scott songs are. So let's first off get into the melody. I used an instrument right out of Flex. It's kind of a bell. It sounds like this. So this is the melody. As you can hear, it's very dark. It's very simple as well. That tends to be what you want. So now I then made a bit of a pad. It sounds like this. Again, it's very dark. It just follows the melody, the main melody of the original melody. I also did this harp. It just arpeggiates. So that's just an arpeggio of the 7th chord of each note in the melody. Next, getting into the drums, I did this bass, and this is also kind of part of the melody, but I just got a synth bass out of Octave, and I put some Camel Crusher on it, which you can see right here. It's very distorted. It's pretty high, but I turned it way down over here, so it's not too intense, but it sounds like this. And next we have the hi-hat. This here is just a 2-step hi-hat pattern, but getting into the next hi-hat, I spruced it up a lot, and this is for the hook. It sounds like this. Next we've got the snare. It's just hitting on 3 of each measure. We've got a rim. It sounds like this, and it just repeats over here. Then the 808, very simple. That has as well some Camel Crusher on it. It's much less intense, and for Travis Scott type beats, you generally want to have pretty short 808s. This is an 808 that I got from Slate Digital, and originally it was a bit longer, but I shortened it so that it's short like this. So this is what the drum sounds like all together. I have different areas where it has the bass and the 808 because they work in the same frequency range, and so if they play together it sounds really muddy, but this is what each section of the drums sounds like. So that was with the bass and the simple hi-hats, and this is with the more complex hi-hats and the 808. Next, moving on to the arrangement. It's a pretty standard arrangement. I started out with the pad, then I added in the harp and the melody, then the bass, and then the hi-hat, the spruced up one. Then I just did a pretty simple hook, 808, all of the drums, simple hi-hats, all of the melody stuff. Then continuing on in the hook, I took out the 808 and replaced it with the synth bass, and I also used the more complex hats. Then moving on to the verse, I took out the main melody, left in the pad and the harp. I used the standard hi-hats and the 808. And then moving back into the hook, it's the same thing, except for we start off with the synth bass instead of the 808, and then replace it with the 808 later. Then coming into the second verse here, I put a bandpass EQ on the drums, so they sound like this. that's not including the 808, that's just the hi-hat, snare, and rim. I left that on for 2 measures and then I took it off, but everything else stayed the same. Then I went back into the hook. We started out with the 808 and the more complex hi-hats. The more complex hi-hats ran all the way through. On the second set of bars, I put on a reverb on the hi-hats, so they sound like this. So much more, I turned the wet really high, and so you can see it looks like this. The dry is pretty standard, it's a little bit lowered, and the wet is all the way up. The size of the room is all the way up. I turned the low cut all the way up. I turned the high cut down just a little bit, but everything else is pretty much the same, so it just sounds almost like you're in a tunnel on the hi-hats, and everything else was the same. Then I just faded it out right here. I left the reverb on. I took out the rim and the bass or 808. There's neither of those. And I took out the pad and the harp, so it's just the melody, the complex hi-hats, and the snare. And of course the hi-hat has the reverb on it. So that's the entire beat. So just to recap, you want to have dark melodies, short 808s. You often use a synth bass, and pretty simple patterns for the most part, but don't make it boring, and change things up fairly often, but don't go too crazy with it because you want to still have somebody be able to rap on it. So that's how you make a Travis Scott type beat. I appreciate you all watching. Please subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, as well as Cookup videos, VST reviews, and soon I'm doing a video that is the best free VSTs. So yeah, I appreciate you watching. Go follow me on Instagram to hear my beats. You can also hear them on Soundcloud, Beatstars, or my other YouTube channel. All of those are linked in the description. So yeah, I appreciate you all watching, and I'll see you in the next video.